Middle school student MAGlCA Kaname is surprised to find the girl from her dream, Hamura Akemi, enroll in her school the following day. Hamura, who seems to already know her, warns MAGlCA to stay the way she is or risk losing everything. After school, when MAGlCA goes shopping with her friend Sayaka Miki, she hears a strange voice leading her to an abandoned section of the mall. She encounters a strange cat-like creature called Kyubi being attacked by Hamura, who is revealed to be a magical girl. As Hamura demands MAGlCA stay away from Kyubi, Sayaka arrives and escapes with MAGlCA only for them to be caught in a magical barrier and approached by strange monsters. They are rescued by another magical girl named Mami Tomo, who repels the attackers with her magic abilities. Hamura appears again and is confronted by Mami, who tells her that she will overlook the attack on Kyubi as she does not want to fight in front of the other girls. Hamura leaves afterwards. Kyubi is healed by Mami's powers and explains that he wishes to form a contract with MAGlCA and Sayaka to make them magical girls. Mami and Kyubi explain to MAGlCA and Sayaka that Kyubi has the power to grant wishes, but in exchange those who make wishes must become magical girls to fight witches who are born from curses. Mami offers to take MAGlCA and Sayaka with her on a witch hunt to determine whether there is a wish they would risk their lives for. The next day, Kyubi accompanies MAGlCA and Sayaka to school where they learn to communicate with each other telepathically. Hamura visits MAGlCA once again to repeat her warning and refuses to answer when MAGlCA asks what her wish was. After school, MAGlCA, Sayaka and Mami follow the aura of the witch from the previous day to an abandoned building where they save a woman controlled by a witch from committing a bad thing to herself. They enter a portal inside the building where Mami finds and defeats the witch responsible, earning a grief seed which can be used to recover magical power. Sayaka visits an injured boy named Kyosuke Kamijo, who was a violin player she admired when she was little. After defeating a witch's familiar, Mami tells MAGlCA and Sayaka that she was in a traffic accident and did not have time to think about her wish. She also lets Sayaka know about the precedents for wishing on behalf of other people. Later that night, as MAGlCA helps her mother and talks with her father, Mami is approached by Hamura, who warns her about making MAGlCA a magical girl. The next day, while visiting the hospital, MAGlCA and Sayaka find a grief seed that is close to activating. Sayaka and Kyubi enter the portal ahead of them while MAGlCA goes to find Mami. As MAGlCA and Mami catch up with them, Hamura tries to warn Mami about the witch, but Mami binds her to stop her from following them. As they continue, MAGlCA mentions that her wish is to simply be a magical girl and help others. Mami laments that her job as a magical girl has left her lonely and afraid, but on the other hand feels happy that MAGlCA wishes to fight alongside her. Mami fights the doll-like witch Charlotte only for the witch to suddenly transform into a huge caterpillar-like creature that kills Mami right before MAGlCA's eyes. Hamura, freed as a result of Mami's demise, defeats Charlotte and claims the grief seed before leaving a mortified MAGlCA and a heavily resentful Sayaka behind. As Sayaka continues to worry over Kyosuke, MAGlCA admits she is too scared to become a magical girl after witnessing Mami's death, so Kyubi decides to let her be. MAGlCA is approached by Hamura, who tells her that Mami, along with other magical girls she has seen die during her time, will only be considered missing by normal people. MAGlCA says she will never forget Mami or the fact that Hamura saved her life, though Hamura warns her that her kindness may be used against her. As Kyosuke becomes more frustrated and desperate about his condition, which keeps him from being able to play the violin. Out in the city, MAGlCA notices several people infected by the kiss of the witch Charlotte, including her classmate Hitomi Shizuki. They are preparing to end themselves by mixing cleaning agents. When MAGlCA thwarts the attempted mass ending, they chase her to a closet where she is caught by a witch who tortures her with memories of Mami's death. She is rescued by Sayaka, who had become a magical girl after using her wish to cure Kyosuke's hand, much to the shock of Hamura. Elsewhere, Kyubi greets a recently arrived magical girl named Kyoko Sakura, who is unhappy that Sayaka took over the area Mami once looked after. Both MAGlCA and Hamura show concern about Sayaka's decision to become a magical girl. Sayaka visits Kyosuke and feels happy that he is finally able to play his violin once again. MAGlCA asks Hamura to become friends with Sayaka, not wanting her to suffer the same fate as Mami, though Hamura's words that those who become magical girls cannot be saved do nothing to comfort her. Later that day, MAGlCA joins Sayaka to search for a witch's familiar, but it escapes when Sayaka's attacks are blocked by Kyoko, who only cares about collecting grief seeds from mature witches. Kyoko's selfishness angers Sayaka, and the two magical girls clash violently, with MAGlCA unable to do anything to stop them. As Kyoko gets the upper hand, MAGlCA considers using her wish to stop the fighting, but Hamura steps in before she can do so. Hamura knocks Sayaka unconscious and gets Kyoko to leave before telling MAGlCA again not to get involved and insists that she give up on Sayaka. Kyubi talks to Sayaka about the potential MAGlCA has to become a magical girl, but Sayaka insists that she does not want MAGlCA to get involved. Hamura confronts Kyoko, mentioning that something known as Walpurgisnacht is approaching in 2 weeks. Kyoko agrees to form an alliance with her to fight against it. MAGlCA becomes concerned about Sayaka, who ignores her pleas to try talking with Kyoko and shows hatred towards Hamura, whom she blames for Mommy's death. The next evening, Sayaka is confronted by Kyoko again, who goads her into another fight on top of a highway bridge. Before the battle can begin, MAGlCA arrives and throws Sayaka's soul gem, the source of her magic energy, off the bridge in the hope of stopping the fight. Sayaka suddenly drops lifeless, shocking both MAGlCA and Kyoko. Kyubi reveals that as part of the contract, the soul gem literally contains the magical girl's soul, while their body is a shell that can only be controlled within 100 meters of the soul gem. Hamura rushes to retrieve the soul gem and brings it back to Sayaka, reviving her. Sayaka gets angry at Kyubi for not talking to her about her soul's relocation as part of her contract. In response, Kyubi explains this to her. He painfully punishes Sayaka by touching her soul gem, because she was not hurt by Kyoko. The next day, MAGlCA asks Hamura about Kyubi not mentioning his manipulation of Sayaka's soul gem to them. Kyoko talks with Sayaka, taking her to a church which belonged to her father before he was excommunicated for his controversial beliefs. She explains how she made a contract with Kyubi so that people would listen to her father's sermons. But when he found out about her wish, he broke down and ended himself and his family, leaving Kyoko alone. Sayaka apologizes to Kyoko but refuses to listen to her advice to live for herself. The next day, Kyosuke returns to school, but Sayaka avoids talking to him. Hitomi confronts her about it and reveals she is also in love with Kyosuke, giving Sayaka 1 day to confess to him before she does. Sayaka breaks down in front of MAGlCA, believing that she can never be with Kyosuke as she feels she is no longer human. As Sayaka fights against a witch that night, she ignores Kyoko's help and recklessly attacks the witch without regard to the damage caused to her body, laughing maniacally. Sayaka defeats the witch, but refuses to take the grief seed it produces. MAGlCA tries to reason with Sayaka, who blames MAGlCA for her state before running off. As Hamura and Kyoko discuss Walpurgisnacht, Kyubi approaches them and mentions that something bad will happen if Sayaka's soul gem is not cleansed. Sayaka does not return home that night and just watches as Hitomi confesses to Kyosuke the next day, sending her further into despair. Hamura approaches her and tries to offer a grief seed, but Sayaka rejects it again as she does not trust her. Hamura prepares to kill Sayaka to spare MAGlCA from the suffering of watching Sayaka's downfall, but Kyoko intervenes, helping Sayaka escape. Kyubi coerces MAGlCA into making a wish to save Sayaka, but Hamura shoots him before she can do so. She breaks down before MAGlCA and tells her not to be so self-sacrificing. MAGlCA gets the feeling she has met Hamura somewhere before but leaves to search for Sayaka while a replacement Kyubi appears, identifying Hamura as a being from a different timeline. Kyoko finds Sayaka, who is implied to have just ended 2 men on the train. Sayaka admits her stupidity before her soul gem, which has turned completely dark, shatters, and transforms into a grief seed. Elsewhere, Kyubi muses that a woman who has yet to mature is called a girl, and that magical girl is the corresponding term for a witch who has yet to mature. As a witch appears before Kyoko, Hamura arrives and uses her time manipulation to help Kyoko escape, bringing Sayaka's body to MAGlCA. Hamura reveals that the witch was actually Sayaka, whose soul gem had transformed into a grief seed as a result of becoming too tainted with despair. Later that night, Kyubi appears before MAGlCA again, explaining that his race, known as incubators, choose girls in their teens and raise them to become witches in order to obtain powerful energy from the transition from hope to despair in an effort to prevent the heat death of the universe. MAGlCA also learns from him that incubators are emotionless and do not understand human morals. She is upset due to the revelations, desperately clinging to the hope that there may still be a way to save Sayaka. Kyoko asks MAGlCA to help her try to reach Sayaka's human feelings and to obtain her soul gem from the witch. As the two enter the portal to confront the witch, Kyoko takes the majority of its attacks while MAGlCA tries to reach Sayaka with words. However, when Sayaka ends up attacking MAGlCA as well, Kyoko has Hamura get MAGlCA to safety while she sacrifices herself to destroy Sayaka. Kyubi, who knew there was no way of saving Sayaka, taunts Hamura and says that with Kyoko gone she will not be able to stop Walpurgisnacht without MAGlCA becoming a magical girl. The next episode looks at an alternate timeline in which Hamura is a shy transfer student who makes friends with the cheerful MAGlCA. Lacking confidence in herself as she had been in hospital for the past 6 months, Hamura is attacked by a witch but is rescued by MAGlCA and Mami, both of whom are magical girls. When both MAGlCA and Mami are killed in the battle against Walpurgisnacht, Hamura makes a contract with Kyubi to send her back in time so that she can protect MAGlCA. She joins MAGlCA and Mami and learns how to use her magical powers for combat, stopping time whilst using stolen firearms and explosives. However, after the battle against Walpurgisnacht, Hamura witnesses MAGlCA transforming into a witch and realizes QB had been deceiving everyone. She attempts to tell the others during the next time loop, but they do not believe her until Sayaka becomes a witch and the remaining magical girls are forced to kill her. After the battle, Mommy kills Kyoko and turns her gun on Hamura in an attempt to prevent them from becoming witches. MAGlCA stops Mommy with deadly force, leaving just her and Hamura to face Walpurgisnacht. With their soul gems depleted, MAGlCA uses her last grief seed on Hamura, begging her to return to the past to keep her from being fooled by QB. She then asks Hamura to end her before she turns into a witch. Returning to the past with a colder personality, Hamura attempts to keep QB from making contact with MAGlCA in the first place and decides to fight against the witches herself. This ultimately fails and she continues to travel through multiple timelines in the hope of saving MAGlCA. In the next episode, QB reveals to Hamura that the reason MAGlCA has the potential to become such a powerful witch is because Hamura's constant trips through time to try and save MAGlCA have resulted in her becoming the center point of countless timelines, as the potential of a magical girl is determined by the relative effect of their role on fate. After Sayaka's funeral, QB shows MAGlCA the history of magical girls and how it has shaped civilization, causing extreme distress to MAGlCA. MAGlCA's mother, Junko, grows concerned about her and feels her daughter is hiding something from her. MAGlCA goes to see Hamura, who unconvincingly reassures her that she can handle Walpurgisnacht and finally reveals the truth about herself. As a storm hits the city and the citizens take shelter, Hamura stands alone to face Walpurgisnacht, but despite her best efforts she is overwhelmed and is eventually defeated. When MAGlCA hears from QB that Hamura may turn into a witch if the latter loses hope of saving her, MAGlCA prepares to go and find her. Although Junko tries to stop her, MAGlCA convinces her that she is doing what she believes is the right thing. As Hamura begins to lose hope and is on the verge of becoming a witch, MAGlCA arrives with QB, announcing that she plans to make her wish. MAGlCA makes the decision to become a magical girl and wishes to prevent all witches from coming into existence. The paradoxical nature of her wish causes her to transcend into a godlike psychopomp, and establishes a new law of cycles in which magical girls are purified and disappear into a higher plane instead of becoming witches. Hamura returns to a world where Mommy and Kyoko are still alive while only Hamura remembers MAGlCA existed. She and the other magical girls continue to fight against new creatures called wraiths, and Hamura vows to continue fighting in honor of MAGlCA. The series ends on a cliffhanger. If you liked the video, please hit the like button and consider subscribing.